Okay. Oh, let me bring Brooke in. Okay, Chair Austin, I do believe we have a quorum present.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thank you for committing to another long night. This is the Wednesday, February 22nd Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and I would call it to order. Nancy, would you please take roll?
Sure. Kate Townley?
Here.
Colin Haggerty?
Here.
Kate Fuller?
Here.
Carl Adams?
Here.
Brenda Hubka?
Here.
Aaron Martinez?
Here.
Hope Swearinger?
Here.
Tina Prang?
Here.
And Chair Austin.
Here. I
Thank
would
you.
like to welcome our two new members. Thank you very much for coming forward. And I may have missed a little meeting, but I couldn't log in. So I apologize if you guys had that meeting at 5:15 and I missed it, but welcome. And we look forward to working with you. The next item on the agenda is the CodeNext update. And Nancy, who am I to call upon on that?
Brian? Do you want Chris to do another update, or how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, if he'll kind of zoom through what we just talked about. I think the biggest focus, at least from my understanding from Chair Austin, was to talk about the review process for the group and how they might look at this code versus the existing code and items of that nature. Michelle, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct. And it's kind of what Colin hinted to at the beginning of the UDC meeting, is that Brenda initiated the thought about, hey, maybe we need to talk amongst ourselves on what we are supposed to be doing with this a year and a half into the process, and how we want to discuss it and that sort of thing. So I also had a concern. I know that that this has been going on for a long time, but I have noticed that we have not always had the best attendance at the UDC meetings, and just like to make sure that everybody's committed to that, and please attend if there's, of course, I understand life gets in the way, but please attend if you can. So, Brian, I would like to toss it back to you or Chris to talk about how you envision the planning and zoning is supposed to be interfacing with all this material that you're presenting.
I'll let Chris kind of take the lead real quick, and then I'll follow up if there's any other items that I wanted to talk about, or if y'all have any other questions, we can both answer them.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Brian and Chair. So I guess I'll pick up with this slide of where we think we're going. So obviously, a lot of information. We always want to make sure that before we get into that formal adoption process, the last thing that's on our list to do, that there's no surprises for anyone. That includes the public, that includes the steering committee, and includes the planning commission and council. So with that, we're prepared as the consultant to take as much time as we need, but also go as quickly as is expedient to get some of these ideas in place. So we kind of have bulleted out the process we think we're going to go through once we have our formal direction on some of the few lingering items we had in that last meeting. Obviously, this committee has been highly involved and highly influential in some of these ideas. So if you've heard anything in that previous presentation, or if there are things that you weren't quite settled on in our original discussions, we're completely open to hearing your input on all of those. So with that, I'll kind of take a step back to one of the slides I deleted from this presentation that I'm regretting now was we're trying to present this information in three main ways: an executive summary that hits the high level ideas of what each of these chapters entails, the section maps where we kind of outline how we're building this new code from your previous code. In other words, we're not throwing everything out and putting it in a whole new system. We're kind of recalibrating your current system and adding new things in that you need, taking things out that you don't need, and we're revising things that can be done in a better way. So that's kind of the easiest way to put it. So those section maps are an easy way to get into that. And so those I believe they are available right now to you and the public in general, but we want to, I would suggest that might be a way to kind of wade into some of these topics and become familiar with what's the extent of some of the changes. And then lastly, of course, the review draft. So many of the things we discussed in that previous meeting that were in this presentation are either affirming or leading to some subtle changes to the previous draft, or leading to maybe some significant changes to the previous draft based on council's direction. And so those will be reissued once we get that final direction from them in March. So hopefully we could turn that around by that April timeframe to where we know, hey, this is the one that we think as the consultant team and staff, we want to recommend that the city adopts. And so that kind of starts us into this process of, okay, let's introduce it to the decision makers and in the community and in the city, the boards and commissions. Let's engage the public again to get comment and feedback, maybe some specific stakeholders to outreach, and then a formal adoption process. So for those of you on the planning commission, that would either be a time to give us more comment, suggestions, feedback, or for those of you that are new to the commission to kind of get your feet wet and catch up. And we're willing to kind of help you answer questions and figure any of that out. So I don't know that I have anything more detailed than that. I will say from doing this project in other communities, it's not unusual for the process to slow down during this time. So April and May is our target for introducing it into the process. The target for adopting it might be a completely different timeline based on, what type of direction we get in March, what type of feedback we might get in a public open house. So it's not uncommon that these things either speed up or slow down based on that. But I guess I'll pause there and see if there's any specific questions, or Brian, if I've spoken out of term for what you and staff have in mind. Let me know.
No, we have 3 questions. We've got
Yeah.
Colin, and then Carl, and then Brenda.
Thanks for that summary, Chris. And I think Brenda also noted it. I think our job is to create those recommendations, present it to council, but ultimately council will be the one who make the decision. They've gone through it, some of the items one time. Are we going to get those back again to be able to review? And it sounded like yes, and then it'll just go to council for the final time, or will there be changes, I guess, from there? And then I do have one other question after that.
So yes, once we get through these work sessions, the intention is to come up with a final recommended draft that then we'll bring back to you all. And it goes through our boards and commissions workshop. That's a big workshop with the Planning and Zoning Commission, Transportation Advisory Commission, Board of Adjustment and Appeals. I know I'm not going to get all of these boards in this, but there's quite a few. Sustainability Committee, we've got a number that we're trying to kind of coordinate one large meeting so that people have the opportunity to comment on different topics. So yes, it will come back. It's not once this goes, it just goes to adoption. It will come back to the steering committee and the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right, great. And we've received drafts, different chapters here and there. Is there a single repository, and did I just miss that?
I don't think there's a single repository. We've sent you guys all drafts, and then the Inglewood Engage website has those drafts, and then has the drafts that have gone to council. So I think Nancy and I can get together and go through the Inglewood Engage page and maybe create more of a singular space.
I didn't think I saw them on the Inglewood Engage. Like I said, I know I've gotten draft copies, and maybe I'll go back through it again, and just maybe I was missing it. But Those were my questions. Thank you.
Some of them are linked through the agendas and the meeting materials.
Correct.
It wouldn't maybe be the worst idea if we're wanting these to have all the chapters maybe just in one place on that homepage, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, very well noted. Thank you.
Carl? Sorry, Brian.
The public open house, to me, that is where you get a lot of input from the public. And it seems like to have it where it is, basically everything's pretty well somewhat set, and you're not really getting input from the public. You're telling the public what it is. Is that true?
No. Or Chris, you want to go first, and then I'll follow
Well,
up.
yeah, I'll go first and then you can correct me because I might speak. So most of everything that's in this code is based on, we did some pretty extensive engagement in February through May of last year. So most of what's in here is based on that. It's certainly not based on a complete consensus on the direction of that. So it to some extent, a whole bunch of engagement has already occurred, both in the code analysis that you did previous to us joining, but then also in February through May of last year. However, we want it to some extent, you're right in that we're presenting, this is what we heard, but we're also open to hearing where are we wrong, or where is the community completely divided on issues, so that we know going into the adoption process of, where the community feels on some of these issues. So we hope we're on target. We know that the city is pushing in some pretty sensitive areas, I guess, so to speak, that where everyone's not going to agree, but we're trying to strike a balance on all of the large scale policy issues that are really important to the council, as well as all of the issues that that the community has put into your comprehensive plan. So that public open house is for us a chance to say, here's what we heard, here's what we think we're recommending. Now, what do you think? So it's not set in stone by any means, but I also want to kind of be careful that we're not circling back to say we're starting from scratch and thinking, what do you think? We to some extent we heard a lot of these issues in February through May of last year.
And the other thing I was going to say is we're starting to hear a lot more. If you've watched any of the recent council meetings, there's been a lot of public comment on certain topics, generally around housing. And even now we're having more attendance at our steering committee meetings. So we're starting to hear more. There's other ways that citizens can comment through the Englewood Engage website. They can send information to myself. But yeah, this is more of a part of the more formal open house. But again, there's always times and opportunities for citizens to comment on the process.
Brenda?
Right, thanks. So yeah, I do think that time frame is very ambitious, because what I think I'd like to see is our committee looking at Title 16. That's what we're changing. And if you're done working on chapters 1 through 4, it looks like 6, 7, 8, I'd like to see our planning and zoning meetings begin with those and go chapter by chapter and look at the changes in the red lines that you've presented. Because sometimes we've seen red lines and other times we've gotten PDFs and conceptual designs. And then, yeah, you go back to council and I'd like to begin working on what you got, what you think is in stone, because I don't see this wrapping up in May, let alone August. I don't think that we're going to be able to have good discussions if we're taking up 4 or 5 chapters all at once. I also noted in our UDC meeting that it's broken out by use, form, and design. And I think that's something that we'll keep as a guidepost for us, but I don't want to, that would be too confusing to try to review it into those 3 chapters. I don't know if the rest of the group agrees, but I think if we should go chapter by chapter and find consensus that way before we I mean, if that's the draft, I'm saying. But I don't see just seeing us have a couple workshops about all of this and settling it that way. That's just my 2 cents.
Chair Austin?
Sorry, I was muted. I'd like to second what Colin said. I think it would be very helpful to all of us and the public to have one place where they could go, where we could go and see all of the section drafts. And if it's not a huge thing, I'd really, if Brian, you and Nancy can get together and make that happen, I would think that'd be very, very helpful. I also think that this process may slow down quite a bit at this point. I went to a meeting the other day, and it was about this whole thing with changing the R1 zoning, which I had not heard of before. And I was like, this is confusing. And then tonight to see it presented as, and I did watch part of council's meeting last night. It's kind of was a shock to me that it would be sort of like just, you know, it was a surprise to me. I'll just put it that way. So I do think it's going to slow down, and I do think, but, and the same thing is that I don't want to spend a lot of time, although I'm not going to be chair anymore, but I don't want to spend P&Z spending a whole lot of time on hashing things that are going to be drastically changed right under our feet for us too. I'd like to see us hash things out at a relatively, when it's been, you know, we are pretty certain of what we're getting. So that's all I've got to say.
And I do want to say something as far as your comment on changing the R1 zoning. The way it's written right now, there would be no change to the district itself, except for this, the conversation that they're having is what you would call a density bonus offered for affordable housing. So it wouldn't be changing R1A to any other district. I just want to make sure that's clear, because we have gotten a lot of questions about that. But again, what they're talking about with the 2 to 4 units would be considered, what we would consider in the planning world is more of a density bonus for affordable housing. That's kind of the discussion topic they're having.
I understand. It's just, it's
Okay.
that's a huge change. That's all I'm saying.
No, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
Carl,
Oh, sorry.
I'll let you call him out, Nancy.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I don't like talking over you. Carl?
I agree with Collins, and I think we need a place where the old code is and the new code so we can compare the two of them. And I also agree with Brenda, where I think what we need to do is take them chapter by chapter and compare them and talk about them, and then just go through all the chapters and see what we agree with, see what we don't agree with, see what, you know, just voice our opinion, discuss it a little bit. And the other thing is the council meeting last night. There was a very strong opinion by many residents about the R1, what they thought the R1 was, and I'm not sure if they're right or wrong, but there was a lot of strong opinions on it coming out very rapidly here. So we need to kind of see what's going on there, and the having 1 out of 4 units as a 80% affordable housing, 80% is not affordable. It's not even close. 60%, I think 60% was brought up there, but if you take 4 units, make one of them affordable housing, does that eliminate the tax requirement for the whole building? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how that really works, but that is a question I would have. If it removes all the tax requirements for the building, it's Inglewood is going to take a hit on property taxes. That's all I got for now.
Okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Carl, you made a comment about having access to the existing code. Would y'all like that as like a PDF document on that page, or just a link to our code? And that's for any of the four of you that have kind of spoken up so far.
I'm not as worried about the existing one. I've got a copy of that, and I've got the draft ones that we've gotten. I guess I feel like that the existing is a searchable document. These drafts are not, or searchable to be found on the internet. If we have a link someplace, great. I'm not as worried about that. At least that's a published document.
Yeah,
These drafts
I'm
are
not worried about the format either. I'm not worried about the
Okay.
format. It's just where it's everybody, public, P&Z, anybody can go to one place and find it. That's what my concern is.
Okay.
Thanks.
But some of the new members may need a copy of the 16.
Correct. We're taking care of that. So, but thank
Okay,
you
good.
for that reminder. Colin, before, because you're next with your hand, I just wanted to let our attendees know, our public know, I see Ms. White has her hand raised. When we get to the public comment section of the agenda, we will be able to call on you and allow you to speak. So it's just a little bit of a different procedure. So Colin?
Yeah, I also want to maybe caution us against trying to delay this too long. We had a lot of public input in February. I understand people are having additional input now, and I love the fact that they're engaged now, but there was definitely opportunities. It's not like this was being done in a bubble, and I want to make sure that we're not trying to go back and redo things that we did spend a lot of time on and work through and are trying to do for the betterment of the city of Inglewood. I'm saying that we shouldn't take into account any of these things, but just let's not be like, hey, we're not going to get done in May or August for that matter. Let's try to keep moving it forward so that it can be implemented and actually start being used by the city. So I just want to make sure I make that point. The other question I have, I guess, about that, I lost my train of thought on what I was going to ask about the process with. Never mind. So let's try not to get completely start over. Oh, I was gonna say, if we need to, maybe we need to have a couple more meetings to go through some of these more technical chapters. And I know we've had to cancel a lot, holidays, all those things. We're back. It's now the end of February and we haven't had a meeting really for a while. So if we need to kind of buck down and have a couple more meetings, then let's do that. Let's not try to slow things down too much. So that's all. Thanks.
Tina?
Yeah, so building on some of what Colin just said, and in anticipation of the public open house and potential slowdown of the process, do we have anywhere kind of a tracking or documentation of kind of those key points that were heard from the public previously, and how and when those have been addressed as a preventative measure to not only prep this group, but in anticipation of that open house to be better responsive to those issues that have come up, and provide that kind of reminder that we've heard you, we're not ignoring the concerns, but this is where it was addressed, or potentially council overrode, something that was recommended, so that we're just more proactive in that environment.
Is there a
Brian,
question
you
for
want
Chris?
to
I can-
answer
yeah,
that
Brian.
question?
I was going to defer to Chris on some of the information from the open houses.
Yeah, so I would address that question in with there's kind of layers and levels of information of how we progress to where we are right now. So to me, the easiest way to do that, and it's something we would plan on doing anyway, as we begin to, once we realize where we're at after March 13th or whenever we get the formal kind of final direction, what we typically do is let's go tell the story of where we've been. And so I think the three key points of that, which we will summarize, is the first was before we were even engaged as the consultant, and that's the code assessment that was done in 2020 and 2021. So we can certainly distill out of that the key elements that were our starting point of here's the topics that are most important to the community, some of which could go in any number of directions, certainly. So we'll provide that as the starting point. The second thing we can do is we'll provide, I believe there's already some summaries out there of the engagement process from February through March, but we can certainly coalesce that down to some key elements of things that at least from those who were involved in the engagement in February through March were kind of pushing, or there was some consensus or favorableness to it, depending on how it was done. Other things where there was some caution. So we can provide that summary of the February through May engagement of last year. And then the third element would be what this committee worked through from May through the end of last year. And that's where I think it's best summarized in those section maps that I mentioned. One of the things that's been brought up by this group is the idea of red lines or strike throughs. That's really difficult to do from, although we understand the desire for that, so you can kind of be alerted to what's changing. When we're redoing the whole code, that begins to quickly turn into a big mess. It's very hard to understand and read and track. So what we typically like to do is provide that in a more summary section. So that third element would be those section maps that say, here's what your old code said, here's what your new code says, or the proposed code says, and here's why. So I think those three elements would certainly present that bigger picture that you're asking for. And so we would certainly plan on doing that at whatever point we have something that we're introducing for adoption.
Carl?
As far as a timeline on doing this, I don't want to spread it out to 5 years. That like the ADU had taken 5 years to do, and it still wasn't done right. But I do want to get it correct. And the last code lasted 20 years. And this one can easily last 20 years also. And 20 years of a problem, I mean, it can be changed through time. But if you got a serious problem with something, you need to correct it when you're redoing the code. And we need to work on trying to get it correct right off the bat.
Brenda?
Yeah, I don't want it to drag on either, but then it won't drag on as long as we have meetings. So I'm amenable to 2 a month if we have to. These are, like Michelle said, these are one of these that bulk plan is a fundamental change in Englewood. It's huge. It's very impacting. It might be a density bonus, but it is still changing the way single family homes exist in Englewood. So we definitely, I don't want to drag it out 5 years, but I think that it deserves some contemplation. So like I said, maybe we should, definitely go back to meeting once a month, and as soon as we start getting these drafts, or however you want to present it, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be red lines. I think that sounds like a good plan, Chris. The sooner we can get these, the better. We can get underway. And then based on the volume, maybe as a team, we can decide whether or not we want to meet 2 weeks later, or maybe even meet in person. I'm open. Thanks.
Thank you. Colin?
One quick follow-up. It's never going to be perfect, and it can't be perfect because then it would not be able to be flexible. But what I think Chris and the team are doing is provide the framework for, these are the guidelines that they said, and here are the steps if we need to do some sort of variance or some sort of process around it, because it can't be everything for every specific project. But we need to be able to give the city and the team the right tools to be able to guide what the development is happening.
Are there any other hands up, Nancy?
There are not.
Okay. Well, I think this has been a very good discussion, and thank you all for being open to it and talking this through. I think another good place we can start is not only looking at those section maps that Chris has been talking about, but we can see up here on the left-hand side that City Council is gonna have a session on chapters 9, 11, 12, and 13. And so we could actually do homework and listen in on those sessions too. That might be another way to participate. So anyway, is there any further discussion on CodeNext?
I do not see any hands
Okay.
at this point.
Okay. All right. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 6th, 2022. And I believe they were resent out because there was a problem with the link or something. Did everybody get a chance to review those? Okay, I'll assume that that's a yes. I need a motion.
I'll move to approve them. I can't believe that was the last meeting, but it was December 6th. I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Yes, and it was in a different year even. How about that?
I'm so sorry, I didn't catch who seconded.
Me, Aaron.
Oh, thank you, Aaron.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Nancy, would you call for the vote to approve the
Sure.
minutes, please?
Kate Townley,
Yes.
Colin Haggerty,
Yes.
Kate Fuller,
Abstain.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Brenda Hubka,
Yes,
Aaron Martinez, Hope Swearinger,
Yes.
Tina Prang,
I'll abstain because I wasn't in the meeting.
and Chair Austin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to address the commission and regarding items that are not on the agenda. We will not engage in a dialogue or answer questions during this time, and we might direct you to staff or other sources in response to your questions. Nancy, I think I need to toss this over to you since you can see who's here from the public and you need to call on them because I can't see them.
I can. So if you would like to address the commission for the 3 minutes, please raise your hand. And Ms. White, you had raised your hand earlier in the meeting. Do you still wish to speak?
Hi, good evening. No, I don't think I have any comment at this time, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the commission? I'm not seeing any hands. Chair Austin?
Okay. Well, I will say to all the public, please join our meetings anytime. We welcome it very much. So we're all citizens ourselves and do this on a volunteer basis. And we love to hear feedback from the public at any time. So thank you very much for coming. All right, the next item on the agenda is the elections of a chair and a vice chair. Do I hear any nominations for chair?
I will nominate Colin Haggerty.
That's who I wanted to nominate too.
You second it then.
Yeah.
I was going to ask the question. Is Judy going to be involved this year, or is that not? And more just a question.
I don't think so. And Nancy, happy to have you jump in too. She resigned quite suddenly and unexpectedly because she had some very significant things in her life happen. And she just didn't feel that she had, she's very committed to this job and doing it well, and very committed to the city of Englewood, as we all know, through her work with the chamber and everything else. And just didn't feel like she could put her best foot forward on the commission. So I think at this point, I'm hoping she would come back because she's a fantastic member. But I think at this point she's gone. Nancy, do you have any other thing to add to that?
No, she officially resigned.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And that was the
tradition that-
question. If she was not officially, if you just missed this meeting, I think we would have conversation, but that
Right.
helps clarify. Thank you.
right, and that is the tradition that, I mean, it's just a tradition is all I know. And I think Kate Townley, help me if I'm wrong on that, but oftentimes the vice chair is the next chair. So Judy was the vice chair, so she's gone now. So we have 2 nominations for you, Colin, already. Any other nominations? Seeing none, may I please put a motion forward to the committee that we just accept or nominate Colin as the chair of Planning and Zoning by acclamation?
I'm
Do I
sorry,
need to
Chairman.
second that?
I need to do a roll call vote. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. These public things. Okay.
No, it's okay.
No
Are
problem.
we,
All
are
right.
we
so-
ready for the vote?
Yes, Colin is nominated. I'd hear no discussion, so please call for the vote.
Okay, Kate Townley,
Yes.
Mr. Haggerty,
Yes.
Kate Fuller,
Yes.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Brenda Hubka,
Yes,
Aaron Martinez,
Aye.
Hope Swearinger,
Abstain.
Tina Prang,
Yes.
okay, and Chair Austin.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, welcome Chair Haggerty. Would you like Michelle to finish the meeting or would you like to transition now?
I think Michelle should finish up her last meeting here as the chair, and we can start afresh with the next meeting because she's done a fine job.
Well, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, now, congratulations, Colin. Nominations are now open for vice chair.
well, I hope it's not presumptuous, but Ms. Tina Prang here, I understand used to you serve on the school board, if I'm correct?
I
And
did.
maybe, yes, so maybe this would be something you would be open to, being the co-chair of this committee. If anybody, unless somebody else wants to do it. Kate, you'd be great. Carl, you'd be great. Y'all would be great. But I was just thinking of her experience.
Kate, could we call on Kate has her hand up as well.
I was just going to nominate Kate Fuller as an option. Nothing against you, Tina.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
I feel that it's entirely appropriate for those experienced and having history on the committee to sit in those roles. But I appreciate the nomination, Brenda. Thank you.
Okay, so Tina, are you asking for a withdrawal of your nomination?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. All right, so we have Kate Fuller nominated. I think Colin has his hand.
Yeah, I just have I just have it moved by somebody second for Kate Fuller.
Right.
I'll second. Sorry,
Hold
go
on a
ahead.
second. Colin,
Did you still need the second, or are you good?
for Kate Fuller, if that's what you were going to do.
That's what I was gonna say that also. And again, Tina, excited to have you and Hope on the committee here, and looking forward to your involvement in it. But I think Kate Fuller would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nancy. I was calling on Colin because I thought he was going to second Kate. So we all got on this, we're on the same mindset here.
That's okay. And just to clarify for the record, Ms. Prang's was not an official nomination. So just if you see that in the minutes that it wasn't a motion, that is why it was a discussion item. So just to clarify that.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Okay, any further nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, Nancy, will you call for the vote for Kate for vice chair, please?
sure. Kate Townley,
yes.
Chair Haggerty,
Yes.
Michelle Austin,
Yes,
Kate Fuller,
Yes.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Brenda Hubka,
Yes,
Aaron Martinez,
Yes.
Hope Swearinger.
she dropped off, I think.
Oh, all right. Tina Prang.
She's missing.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, Kate and Colin.
Yes, congratulations to you both. Thank you very much for stepping up. All right, the next item on the agenda is the capital improvement plan. I'm guessing Brian, Brooke, Nancy. I'm to call on you for that.
I think Brian's going to take that.
Okay, thank you.
Are you there, Brian? Maybe he had to step away. So what this is in regards to, and Brian, if you come back on or if you're having technical, please cut me off and jump in. Oh, it looks like he's off mute. Go ahead, Brian.
No, you go ahead. I was having some difficulties with my computer.
Okay. So what this is our budget administrator for the city, Jenny Nolan, has reached out to various boards and commissions who review the capital improvement budget and recommendations each year, and Planning Commission is one of those. So they are holding a joint capital improvement plan meeting with City Council on April 24th. And she is asking if we want to, meaning the commission, wants to send a representative, or if all members want to attend, who would like to attend, and if you're going to attend in person or attend remotely. If you'd like, you can think about it and email Brian and me tomorrow or the next day, and we can get that to them, or we can discuss it now. Your pleasure.
Okay, I feel a little strange being in this situation as so-called chair, but really Colin's the chair. So Colin, you have your hand up, so I'm going to call on you first.
Thank you, former chair Austin. Yeah, I would love to be a part of that. Will that just be during the normal council meeting that they're having this? Seeing that the 24th, I think you said, is on a Monday.
I would have believed so. Okay. She doesn't give a time, so yeah, it's a joint meeting with City Council.
And is it just to go through the process of what the?
It's to help plan.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
oh, to actually go
plan
through.
For the for the capital improvement plan.
Yeah, for I guess for everybody who doesn't know, one of the key items that the Planning and Zoning Commission does is actually presents the capital improvement plan to City Council for approval. So it's our responsibility to go through and really try to help prioritize what the city of Inglewood is planning for their capital improvement budget for the subsequent year. So it's a really important part of what we do, and a very interesting part, I think, of what we do. And so I'm more than happy to be a representative, and happy if others want to join as well.
I think I agree with Colin. I think it's basically the precursor to the product that they will be giving to us to review. So I think the background would be very helpful. Nancy, do you know if it's going to be in person only, or a combo of in person and Zoom, or how the meeting format's going to be?
They're requesting, it'd be like the regular city council meeting. It'll be a hybrid meeting, so you can attend in person or you can attend remotely. They're just asking if we could let them know ahead of time which is which, because they would have to get a link from our IT department if you're going to attend remotely.
Okay, could I just then request that all of the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission be sent an invitation to that, and then they respond in time to get back to you, just sort of shorten.
Absolutely. I can send that out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Brenda, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep, I'll make a note. Brenda?
Well, I don't know if you said this. Is it going to be recorded so we can watch it afterwards?
If it's city council.
Yes, all city council meetings are recorded.
Right. Okay, then I'm good. And thank you for going, Colin.
Carl?
It's not a regular city council meeting, it's a study session, so, but it is recorded.
Okay, that's good clarification.
Okay, anything else on that? All right, great. Yeah, getting those budget numbers is always a little interesting. It is kind of like, okay, why did they say this, yes to this and not to that? So maybe that'll clear some things out. All right, the next thing on the agenda is staff's choice. Nancy?
Sorry, I'm good, but thank you.
Brian? Uh-oh. Who was that?
The only thing, I know y'all have made some comments about meeting a little bit more often. And the one thing that maybe I want to talk to you guys as a commission, the way it worked out tonight, if we meet both as the steering committee and the planning and zoning commission on the same night, the UDC steering committee is limited to that 1 hour. So would it be preferable for us to bring, you know, those additional items that Brenda, that you had talked about to the steering committee and not hold planning and zoning commission meetings those neat evenings unless we have, you know, business that we have to bring to you? That way there's more time to discuss as a steering committee.
So that would basically then, if I'm understanding you right, basically every Tuesday, unless there's a holiday, would be either a UDC or a P&Z meeting. Is that what you're envisioning, Brian?
Well, they're always held on the same night right now, correct, Nancy?
Right.
They're always held on Tuesday
Correct.
nights.
Yes.
So that's the one thing that it makes it a little bit more difficult if we want to try to have more planning and zoning commission meetings or UDC steering committee meetings. We just want to figure out a good way
Right.
forward.
Well, what I'm saying is, rather than every other week, we have both of them together. We would basically block out all Tuesdays, and the first Tuesday would be either the UDC or I think P&Z always meets the second and fourth. So UDC would be the first week, planning and zoning the second week, and alternate like that. That's what I was.
No, that's not what I was proposing. More
Okay.
of if we just necessarily wouldn't hold planning and zoning commission meetings unless we had an item that required your vote.
Okay.
Or some type of agenda action item.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I wanted to ask you all as a.
Nancy, I'll let you, Colin. I think Colin had his hand up first, but go ahead.
He did, and Brenda, I accidentally, I was trying to mute you because we get feedback if too many people are off mute, and I accidentally put your hand down. I apologize. Colin, and then it'll be Brenda and then Carl.
Yeah, I think having, again, a few more meetings to go through this UDC in this imminent future, I think would be important. I don't want to freak out Tina. We don't necessarily meet every week unless, as Ryan noted, there's something to vote on. Even every 2 weeks, we haven't had a meeting for a while. So, I feel like we're due a few meetings here. And if it helps us to get through some stuff, I'd be happy to, again, commit a couple more evenings, especially when we do it remotely. If we do things in person, maybe we don't do every one, but maybe we can do one and have a big study session to get everyone together and really talk through some of those key issues, maybe 1 or 2 of those.
Brenda?
Well, the only possible problems I see with that is, one, these last couple of months, I felt like we were held hostage by UDC. Like we were not going to have any meetings until UDC was ready. And I kind of had to push for this P&Z meeting, which gratefully got us the previous UDC meeting, or other things I'm sure contributed to that, like the public sentiment right now expressed. So that's, I wouldn't mind. I think we should block out 2 hours in a night. But the second problem is that on the city webpage, under boards and commissions, is the public expectation that P&Z is meeting at least once a month. And it actually says, I think second and fourth Tuesdays, that we meet twice a month. So what I'd rather do is call them P&Z meetings and meet for 2 hours. And only because we should have a meeting even if UDC is not ready. Because that way P&Z can say, oh, UDC has some more refinements to do, but hey, what are your thoughts on the bike paths? What are your thoughts on this new, there's no reason why we can't get together and discuss stuff. That's kind of what I tried to do in an email, but because if we're not going to meet, we need to communicate somehow. So they need to be P&Z meetings.
Carl?
I also think that P&Z should meet twice a month. Would it be possible to have the UDC like an hour and a half? Is an hour too short? Apparently, like tonight, it was kind of short for whatever reason. But could we do an hour and a half and then continue after that with the P&Z?
Are you willing to, is the commission suggesting starting at 5:30 for the UDC steering committee? So because the published time for planning commission is 7 p.m.
Well, the one thing I would just want to bring up is that the UDC does include other members besides planning and zoning. So maybe that discussion about when to start UDC should be held at the next UDC meeting.
Or can that be an emailed out question? Can we start earlier?
Yeah,
And-
or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mean to jump you, Kate, but just a quick question. Is the requirement that we have a planning and zoning meeting if we have a topic to talk about, or is the requirement that we have 2 times per month?
I think 2 times per month. There should be something to talk about. We're going through a code change that is huge. And if we want to keep the timing short on that, we need to talk about it.
Yeah, I think the only time that meetings have been canceled is because there was nothing on the agenda. Nancy, help me out on that because my
That
memory.
is correct. I want to circle back to Colin's question for 2 things. We can check with Vicky, our city attorney, to see if it's a requirement. Council does have a requirement to meet twice a month. I'm not sure planning commission does, but I want her to weigh in that. And we'll definitely have to ask her if we can, because that would be conducting business, asking the steering committee meeting or steering committee what time they want to meet. So I would want to make sure we ran that by her to make sure we're not violating our open meeting laws. So those were the, Brian, did you have anything on that?
No, just that the P&Z bylaws provide the ability to cancel those meetings if there's no business items. There's 3 reasons to cancel a regular session meeting. It's 1 is determined that a quorum will not be present, 2, no subjects are scheduled for the agenda, or 3, other reasonable circumstances. So the bylaws do provide the ability to cancel those meetings if we don't have anything scheduled for the agenda. And I think that's what Michelle's mentioning, is that we haven't had any actionable items scheduled for the agenda. So no plan unit developments, no subdivision plats, nothing along those lines, aside from the meeting in November.
Perfect. That answered that. Thank you, Brian. Kate?
I'd just like to say that I would actually disagree that we should have more preliminary discussion during P&Z, mainly because the steering committee meetings are more open. More people are able to participate as a committee member, and we can have open conversation, whereas we can't have that same open conversation in this format. So I think we have the opportunity for more engagement through the steering committee process, and to go deeper into some discussions before we get into a more formal P&Z structured meeting. And there's the steering committee meetings. It can be 3 or more planning commissioners. So I would say to go by Brian's recommendation that we make our steering committee meetings longer and ask that more planning commission members attend those.
Whoops, sorry, Brenda? You're muted, Brenda. I had to mute you so it didn't screech back at me.
Yeah, I hate that you mute me. But let me ask a question. Is there, for P&Z to meet, is it required that there's an actionable item? I don't think it is. I think we can say, hey, we want a meeting, and here's what we're going to put on the agenda. we're going to talk about chapter 1, chapter 5. We're just going to talk about it. Now, of course, I want it, of course, discussed in UDC also. But like I said, I really feel like the city is holding us back. I'm sorry, but it just does. It doesn't feel like the city is really giving us the time to be contemplative. I'm not trying to drag it on, but I really feel like this is really being pushed on the city, a lot of this stuff. So I'm amendable to 2-hour UDC meetings as long as we have them. Thank you.
Colin?
And I think more to Kate's point, Brenda, I think we need to have them, right? But we need to have the full UDC committee there, or at least have the option for them. Whereas in this meeting, they're not allowed to be a part of the conversation that would happen. So it'd be very limited to only the Planning and Zoning Commission members to be able to talk and have input. Whereas if we extended the UDC meeting, then there would be the ability for the rest of the commission members to be involved.
Right, there's not a, I mean, there is a public forum every meeting. It's open to the public. And of course, we have the official, public comment on like a PUD before us. But Colin's right, the structure of things is that we can't put the cart before the horse by discussing it all here. I mean, we can, but really the appropriate place for most of that discussion, I think what you're trying to discuss, Brenda, is in the UDC meeting too. So, but you know what? Colin, in about 5 minutes, is going to be in charge. But the UDC, he's not in charge of the UDC. So there's a little bit of difference there. So.
Okay. Let me take a shot at kind of looking at the meetings that we have coming up and see if I can figure out some kind of schedule that we would have, representation in both UDC and then Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'll take a shot at it and we'll bring it back to our next meeting.
Colin?
And can you remind me, is it open to all Planning and Zoning Commissioners, or is it required that all Planning and Zoning Commissioners are part of the UDC?
All Planning and Zoning members are members of the UDC, but there's additional other people, correct, Brian? Or Nancy?
Yes, that's correct.
All P and Z members are members of UDC.
And so required might not be the right term, but are we all supposed to be there?
That's
and
kind
be
of
a
what
part of that?
my opening comment was at the very beginning of the P and Z meeting, is that yes, you're not required. But I think last time, I think it was just Carl and one other P and Z meeting. So not very well attended. So.
So
But
when
you-
council,
But otherwise, you can also look at it online too. So I really shouldn't even say anything. So I take that all back. So I apologize.
so when council formed the steering committee, they interviewed and appointed 5 non-planning commission members, but with the understanding that planning commission members would be part of that. So I know it's a distinction, but between Collins, is it required or is it, optional? That's my recollection, is when they appointed the committee or formed the committee, that the planning commission members would be participating in the committee.
Right.
I hope that helps.
This is the longest staff's choice I think we've ever had. But that's good. We had to get these things off handled. Is there more on staff's choice? Or Brian, I think, is going to get back to us with a proposed schedule, correct? And then Brian, do you have other things, or I'm maybe not finished with Nancy?
No, that was the biggest question I had, was kind of trying to figure out what kind of schedule you all wanted to look at.
Okay, all right, great. Brooke,
I have nothing to add.
you're there. Okay,
I am here. I am listening.
thank you. Ryan and Jennifer.
Jennifer's a member of the public, but thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, then I see attorney's choice, but I don't think there's an attorney with us today unless there's a commissioner that's an attorney. So then it is commissioner's choice. So I will go around as I see you on my screen. Aaron,
Nothing, thanks.
Kate Fuller,
I don't have anything tonight.
Brenda Hubka,
I've spoken enough. Thanks.
Carl Adams,
Nothing really. I do kind of, it bothers me that the last meeting was on early December. We do more work than that. We're have more input, and we need to have better attendance in that. And the holidays or whatever, I mean, we need to keep the meetings going, and you can't discuss things if you're off at a movie or something. So if we're at a meeting, we're here, we can discuss it between ourselves, and I just think we need to have more serious attendance, well, not the attendance, but the more scheduled meetings. So that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. Good night.
Lots of work to do. I think that's agreed amongst us all. Kate Townley?
Michelle, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Aaron has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I wanted to mention this earlier, just to note for the record, an appreciation for former Chair Austin and her service to the commission.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I appreciate that very much. Thanks. Kate Townley? Oh, now you've all moved on my screen.
Oh. Yeah, I like Aaron said, wanted to thank Michelle for your time leading the commission, and to welcome Colin and Kate as our new leaders, and then also welcome Tina and our other new commissioners. That's all.
Great. Tina, did I call it? You all moved, so I think Tina's the only one I haven't called on yet.
Just thank you for the warm welcome. There's definitely a lot to learn and a lot of material to absorb, but I really look forward to the work with you all.
Thank you. All of us are looking forward to working with you too. Okay, I see Carl's hand up.
I just wanted to thank you for your chair position in the last year or whatever it's been. And are you staying on the council on the planning and zoning?
Yes, I did not resign, but if there's,
Okay.
if I hear a motion to that, I'll be happy to entertain that motion. I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding. No, I plan on staying. I think this is, I think Inglewood's in a very interesting place right now in planning and zoning. In the middle of it. And I saw you at that meeting, that neighborhood meeting the other day too. And it was like, oh, this was like, where have these people all been? I mean, there was a bunch of people there. So anyway, but thank you.
Thank you.
And Hope's been able to rejoin us.
Oh, okay. Before I call on you, Colin, I'm going to go. Hope we are on Commissioner's Choice. So if you have something you'd like to say to the commission, now is the time.
Thank you. I apologize. My internet disconnected and I think I rejoined as an attendee. So I've been here, but not able to participate. So yeah, thanks for the warm welcome. And I have nothing to add as of now, but excited to be a part.
Great. Thank you very much. Colin, you have your hand up.
I also wanted to say thank you for the last year. Michelle, you've done a fantastic job leading us through this effort. It's, I'm sure, been very challenging, but hopefully rewarding also. Also welcomed Hope and Tina. I think you guys are coming in at a really fun time for the planning and zoning as well as the UDC, which you might not have known that you signed up for as well, but appreciate your efforts on that. Just as a note, we cannot email amongst ourselves to discuss things. If you're not familiar with that, I think I made that mistake at least 2 times in my couple of years here, just not really thinking about it, being like, hey, I want to get this idea out. So just a word of warning there. And then also, you know, as far as the process, we talk about it every once in a while. I think we might consider doing in person. I think for now we're going to stay with virtual meetings. We'll see how that goes. Maybe as the weather warms up, we can all get together at least a few times to have these discussions a little more interactively, because sometimes it feels challenging to be able to provide input when you have to stop, raise your hand, although we do have to follow rules when we're in our commission meetings also, but might be a little more interactive endeavor.
Great.
So thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all very much. It's been fun and a pleasure to serve as your chair, and looking forward to staying on planning and zoning with Colin and Kate's leadership. So, and like I said, I think that this Englewood P&Z is right at the thick of things right now, and it's going to be a very interesting year, and especially to see so many Englewood residents really engaged right now. So it's going to be a fun ride. So anyway, thank you very much, and I think that I can call this meeting adjourned at, what is it, 8:08? Is there anything further for the good of the cause? Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.